Hello everybody, and thank you for being here. Today I'm gonna explain with you this category, job offer. I told you in several times that here in Mexico you will be able to apply for residency in different ways. For example, financial solvency, family unit, job offer, for real estate, or maybe for be investor, between another categories. Okay? In this circumstance, in this topic, I'm going to explain with you about the famous work visa. It's important for you know what are those keywords that you need to know before apply for this work visa, because honestly, it's very different the interview in the Mexican consulate. The difference, the financial solvency that you need to prove that you have the econs. In this circumstance, for work visa, you need to prove certain conditions and not only documents. Okay? However, it's important for me bring this topic because maybe you consider apply for this category, work visa, because your intention is first be residency here in my country, and second because you decided to work here in my country in any Mexican company. But the point here is that Mexican company need to give you this offer, this opportunity offer to work with them here in Mexico and make money here in Mexico. Okay, let's do it to explain about it. The first, in this topic, I'm gonna share with you those subtopics. For example, how the Mexican work visa process works in 2026. The second is the role on the employer. The number 3 is what the NUT number is. Common mistake foreigners make. And the last one is important tips to avoid delays. Okay? Why I did those subtopics? Guys, it's important for me be clarified in those subtopics because always any foreigners make this mistake in the process. Unfortunately, in this category, any step counts. Yes, you are not able jump steps. Yes, because if you do that, you will reject in this procedure, because the only institute that give you that opportunity to work here in my country is INM, Instituto Nacional de Migración here in Mexico. Okay, but don't confuse that you need to come to Mexico and do this procedure. More if you don't have a residency. Yes, however, I'm going to explain with you more about it more later. Yes, but let's do it to explain about how the Mexican work visa process works in 2026. For example, guys, this is the process. The process, maybe you see this process completely longer, and to be honest with you, it's longer. You have several days to wait until be residency. Yes, in this category. Why? Because, for example, of course, before apply for this category, the Mexican company need to be registered in INM. Okay? But before the Mexican company register in this institute, in this federal institute, of course, need to exist an applicant. Who is the applicant? The applicant is someone who trying to apply for this category for job offer. And foreigner, maybe a US citizen, maybe a Canadian citizen, or maybe a French, or maybe different nationalities. That foreigner decided to work here in Mexico. Okay, they have contact with a specific Mexican company here in my country, and yes, okay, the Mexican company accept that foreigner work with them. Yes, but before bring that foreigner, that applicant, the Mexican company need to follow center rules here in Mexico. Okay, and you need to be careful for it. The Mexican company is a corporation, a biggest corporation, medium corporation, or maybe a small corporation. I don't know. But the important here is they need to prove certain conditions, certain documents, certain legal documents that they need to give at INM. Yes, INM check out those documents. They need to validate any document. When the INM determine that Mexican company complete all the requirements, okay, INM give them the famous, in Spanish is constancia de inscripción de empleador. Okay, in English, let me explain that, how to say that. I remember is employer registration certificate. Yes, this famous document that allowed any Mexican company hired foreigners. Yes, it's important for them have this document. But well, when they have that document in this process, I visualize that Mexican company have this special document that is employer registration certificate. However, imagine that the application set the CV at the Mexican company. Yes, the Mexican company counting at that applicant. They discuss certain, negotiation for the salary, for the benefits, whatever. Okay, either Mexican company accept, give at him or her a residency here in my country by this category job offer. Okay, the INM, okay, the Mexican company need to go to INM. The Mexican company need to write down a job offer, where in that job offer need to be specified certain points. For example, what is the occupation, the salary, between another points that according to Mexican migration law required for any Mexican company who they have that intention to hire a foreigner. Okay, when INM again valid that job offer or that letter complete with those requirements, pass the next step. What is the next step? The famous NUT. In Spanish, it's important for you to know it in Spanish. Número Único de Trámite. Okay, that is the name. NUT. NUP in Spanish. Okay, this document less word explain. This document approve that foreigner have that opportunity to come to Mexico and be residency and work with that Mexican company. Okay, but the key here, or something that you need to know, is this document, not because INM approve that requirement for that Mexican company, means that you have the guarantee to be residency here in my country and work with them. Why? Because I told you, any step counts in this category. Okay, when the Mexican company have this official document, the NUT, okay, the Mexican company need to send that document at the applicants. The applicants, apart that document, need to gather another documents. It is very important to bring in the Mexican Consulate. Something completely important here. This famous official NUT, or official document, have a timeline. What is the timeline? Is 30 days. The applicants have 30 days to make an appointment in any Mexican consulate that he wants or she wants. Okay, she or he is able to make an appointment whatever they want. Okay, the only point here is you need to be careful in which Mexican consulate you will apply. Why? Because if that Mexican consulate is not your home country, maybe that Mexican consulate, apart your documents, you need to bring another special document, which maybe you need to prove certain legal stay in that country, but not as a tourist. Maybe they require that you need to be a resident, temporary or permanent residency. Okay, you need to understand that, you need to ask for it, but the point here, you have only 30 days to make an appointment in your Mexican consulate. Okay, it's important for you to know it. When the applicants or maybe the Mexican company support you in making an appointment in a specific Mexican consulate, the applicants need to gather, I told you, certain documents. Those documents need to be in original or copy. The point here is the next step is the Mexican consulate. Guys, in this part is very important for any applicants who apply for this category job offer, pass this interview. Yes, the difference than financial solvency is this category is not only documents. Yes, because in financial solvency you need to prove about your bank statement that you complete that amount. Yes, that it counts. In this category, job offer is very different, because apart that you are the right person that fall in that occupation, you need to prove it. How? In that interview. For example, if that occupation say that you will interact with Mexican people, that means that you speak Spanish. And if that official staff ask you in Spanish and you are not able to speak in Spanish with that person, that one mistake or that one test affect your process, and the Mexican consulate made this decision to reject your application as residency. Why? Because you don't speak Spanish. If in your occupation you say that you will interact with Mexican people, but you are not able to speak in Spanish, no makes sense in this circumstance. Okay, it's insane. Between another points, you need to prove that you have the professional background, for example, with your CV, and that you need to know your Mexican company, who is the boss with that company, what is the location about that Mexican company, between another questions that the official staff ask you. You need to be completely prepared, respond those questions. And when you pass that interview, congratulations, the Mexican consulate submit you or give you this famous Mexican visa. Remember that Mexican visa have two options. First, be resident here in my country, and second, you have include the work permit. Yes, you are able to work with that Mexican company who give you that opportunity to work with them. Okay, and well, the last steps, of course you know it because I explained it in my old stream about the famous canje process. If you know it, if you don't know it, honestly, I recommend you. What do you mean canje process? But the canje process, explained completely general, is when you're trying to change your Mexican visa for your resident card. Yes, that resident card who I share with you in this image, that it's important for you have it. Yes, when you have it, you are able to do another procedure and started to work with that Mexican company. Okay, they are the process. Again, any step counts a lot, and you need to be prepared in any step. Okay. The role of the employer. In this point, guys, you need to understand something. Unfortunately, in Mexico, sometimes there are certain Mexican companies who they commit no fraud, but they violate certain labor law. Okay, more for foreigners, because when you are tourist, imagine that you jump the process that I explained with you before. You jump to another step. You thinking that comes to Mexico as a tourist and trying to find any Mexican company, because it's difficult for you find a Mexican company out of Mexico. I understand it, but I'm going to explain with you more later how you are able to do it. But the point here, when you comes to Mexico, as a tourist, find a Mexican company. That Mexican company, without register in INM, give you the opportunity to work with them, and you start the next day. Okay. The point here is, I told you in the beginning, in my process, the Mexican company need to be registered. If that Mexican company gives you an opportunity to work with them, but they don't prove you that Mexican company it is registered with INM, honestly, the guarantee for you maybe is that Mexican company control your life, control your salary, and maybe they don't give you benefits as a normal employee. Okay, no matter what, if that company hired a Mexican people or whatever, well, no foreigners, because maybe that Mexican company is not registered in INM. But for Mexican people who work in that Mexican company have benefits, more benefits than you, but you are a tourist. Yes. The point here is, first, you are not able to work here in Mexico as a tourist. This is the first point, because if you do it, you commit an illegal circumstance in your immigration status. Yes, because INM doesn't give you that permission to work here in my country as a tourist. Okay, if you do it and INM notice that you work illegal here, they have the faculty to give you leave official document that you need to leave to my country, maybe the same day, maybe the next day, I don't know, or maybe they can deport you or put an migratory alert here in my country. If when any immigration staff know that you have this migratory alert, they will deport you. Okay, be careful, guys. Don't overestimate this institute. But well, return on the topic. Any Mexican company need to be registered here in Mexico, okay, with INM. If they don't have that registration, don't work with them. In addition, they won't be able to give you this opportunity to work with them as a resident, okay? But when the Mexican company registered with INM, they need to prove certain documents. I put you certain principal documents, but apart those documents, they need to give another documents. The first, of course, is proof the legal existence of the legal entity here in Mexico, okay? They need to prove it. They need to prove of registration in the Federal Taxes Registry. They need to prove certain background. Of course, that Mexican company need to have a list of employees. With those employees have a contract, have benefits, have a medical service, between another benefits for any worker here in Mexico. Okay, and of course, when they complete those requirements, INM give them the famous employer registration certificate. Okay. Another point here is when that Mexican company give a job offer at any foreigner, they need to follow certain points who I explained with you before. That job offer need to complete certain requirements, yes, but those requirements, that occupation need to fall in this famous national system of occupational classification, okay? That system of occupational, you are able to see different occupation here in Mexico, who is very normal, because any occupation have an unique number, yes? That unique number need to put in that job offer, but the foreigner who have that intention with work with them, with that Mexican company, need to make sense in that occupation. Yes, I told you in the beginning, if that job offer say the person who I give this job offer, his or her occupation is interact with Mexican people, that means that that foreigner is able to speak in Spanish. Yes, trying to be careful in it. Another point, of course, is that occupation is be a manager, maybe a director, I don't know, good positions. But if that foreigner prove they have the experience to be in the same level, of course, no makes sense. Yes, INM reject it. But not only INM reject the Mexican consulate. Okay, no, don't overestimate those institutes, such the Mexican company as the applicants. Yes, be careful for it. But well, that is the point. Now I'm gonna explain with you what do you mean what the NUT number is. This document, guys, that I explain with you in my process, that this official NUT is something that the INM give at the Mexican company. Yes, but this document is the authorization letter. It is an official document issued by the National Institute of Migration, INM, in Mexico, that confirms that approve of a temporary residency visa with a work permit. Okay, if your Mexican company have this letter, this authorization letter by INM, of course everything goes well, but I told you it's not a guarantee. Okay, first, because you need to make an appointment in any Mexican consulate, and second, you need to pass the interview with the Mexican company. Okay, not because you have it means that you have 100% guarantee in obtaining you're resident here in my country with this permission, work permit. Okay, be careful, guys. Trying to be intelligent in this category. Okay, this only about this authorization letter. The next point is the process. I told you, when the Mexican company have this authorization letter by INM, this letter need to send at the applicants, because when the applicants need to go to the Mexican consulate, apart another documents need to bring it. Okay. But well, guys, that is the process. I don't want to explain more again it, because I explained with you in the beginner. But well, common mistake foreigners make. What are those mistakes? The first, of course, is start to work as a tourist. Don't do it, guys, because I told you, if the INM notice that you work here in Mexico as a tourist, of course you will got problems. Why you will got problems? Because you are illegal here. You are working illegal here as a tourist. Maybe your tourist permit here in my country is is legal. You are not expired, but you working. Okay, this is a problem for you, because INM will give you a migratory alert. Yes, with that migratory alert means that you have that guarantee to have a deportation here in my country. Okay, be careful for it. I'm gonna explain with you this point, guys. I understand for foreigners who they trying to find any vacancy about Mexican companies. I know it's difficult to find vacancies out of Mexico. They have that alternative to come to Mexico, trying to find a specific Mexican consulate, ask with them if those companies give the opportunity to work. For that foreigner, of course, is valid. Honestly, I don't want to say the contrary. The contrary is start to work without this permission for INM. But when you find that Mexican company, you need to ask them, hey, you are registered in INM to give me this opportunity? If no, if your Mexican company didn't know how register in INM and you too, try to find someone who reach out you and your Mexican company, how first register in INM, and second, and you how handle this process with the Mexican company, and of course accumulate the documents that you need to bring in that Mexican consulate. Okay, it's my recommendation for you. If you find a Mexican company here in my country, physical, and you decide to start with this procedure, trying to hire someone who have the experience, who have this experience for immigration matters, of course. Well, don't do it without making risk in this circumstance. Okay. But well, the second mistake is pay to save exposition work, because I understand certain Mexican company, maybe they are not those Mexican company who posting in different official webs about any vacancy. Yes, the condition is, if you want to work with me, you need to save this position, sell me money. If that Mexican company requests it at you, don't pay it, okay? Because it's insane. You don't need to pay for that position, okay? Maybe you need to pay, of course, certain federal fines in Mexican consulate, of course, and here in INM you need to pay for it, because you need to pay for your residency, of course, those fines. But if you hire someone who support you in this process, of course you need to pay at that person, but you don't need to pay at the Mexican company. Okay, be careful. confuse work permit with work visa. What do you mean that, guys? Work visa and work permit is completely different. When you are resident here in my country without this permission to work, you need to request at INM this famous work permit, okay? But when you are resident here in my country, work visa is when you don't have residency here in my country and you decided be residency and of course have this permission to work here in my country. However, exists this category job offer, okay? Again, work permit is for those foreigners who they are resident here in my country and they request at INM this permission to work. Yes. Work visa is for a new foreigner who decided to be resident and second work with any Mexican company who gives that opportunity to work with them. Okay? Be careful. The next point is don't respect the 30 days of the NUT. Remember that authorization letter by INM, the NUT, only have 30 days. Don't overestimate the time because any Mexican consulate is completely busy. Not only attend foreigners, they need to attend Mexican people too. And you need to understand it. Okay, but you have only 30 days. And the last one is overestimate the interview consulate. I told you the difference than financial solvency, that is the category. In financial solvency, you need to prove with document that you fall in that icons, yes? But in job offer, no, not only the documents speak with you. You need to speak, you need to prove that you are able to handle that occupation. Okay, and important tips that to avoid the lies are consider applying for the consular interview in your home country because honestly maybe it will be more easy for you. You understand that Mexican consulate, and second because otherwise make sure you understand the requirements for no residencies. Imagine that you don't apply in your Mexican and your Mexican consulate in your country home, you decide to apply in another country, but remember you need to understand what are those additional requirements for non-residents. Okay, try to understand it. The second point is keep in mind that the Mexican company must be registered with the INM and have a valid employer registration certificate because this document, employer registration certificate, have a timeline too. What is the timeline? 1 year. Any year, any Mexican company who they are registered in INM need to update this document, okay? And you need to know it. First, that they have this document, and second, that document is valid. Yes, it's not expired, it's valid. The last one is be aware that your need is valid for 30 days. Again, it's very important for you to know it. The last one is respect the procedure for this work visa. Why I said that? Because guys, I told you in my example for be tourist here in my country, you jump first with that company doesn't register in INM. Second, and you don't have this authorization letter by INM. And another point is you never go to the Mexican consulate to make an appointment. And second, pass your interview. It's more easy for you come to Mexico and start to work for that Mexican company. You jump several steps. Yes. And my point here, not respect the procedure because any step counts. The last one, consider having a good level of Spanish. Because for example guys, if you apply for this category for job offer, of course you need to have certain level in Spanish because not all the Mexican company, not all the Mexican consulate, but if your occupation say that you will interact with Mexican people or with someone who speak or certain nationality who speak in Spanish, you need to prove that you are able to speak Spanish. Okay? Well, guys, that's it in this streaming. I hope, well, in this video, I hope honestly this topic makes sense at you. It's very useful with you. If you have someone who applied for this category and they didn't have any sign or cue how they can apply for this category, send this video. Okay, please guys, don't forget to subscribe in this channel, thumbs up the bell, help me a lot, because this channel is this intention, this goal, support foreigners who they trying to be residents here in my country. Muchas gracias por ver este video. Nos vemos en la próxima. Bye bye.